All right, we are going to start with our number 9 here. This really is a continuation of yesterday, so I kind of wanted you to just practice these and then we'll go over them. Now, I do know that 9B had some wrong wording. It wasn't asking about the proportion of mobile homes. What we really want to say here is what is the toxicity level of the mobile homes in the Los Angeles area that have the highest 10% of toxicity level. Okay. All right, but let's go ahead and go over these. So here we go. We are talking about, this was real-world data on this study of the mobile homes, and we're talking about the nitrous dioxide, dangerous levels of it. And so because of energy conservation, these mobile homes are holding some of that pollutants in. All right, so here was the average. The average nitrous dioxide level was this with a standard deviation of this. So that tells me those are two things that I do know. Okay, now the next question is, what percentage of homes have nitrous dioxide levels that are above the toxic level of 57.3? So this is a context value. So because that is parts per billion, that's a context. So that's your X. So this is one like what we quizzed on a few days ago, where now that I have the mean, the standard deviation, and the X value, I'll find the Z-score. And so, of course, you know that the Z-score is your X minus the mean over the standard deviation. And so there's how we get our Z-score. So once we have that, and that comes out to be 1.8. Now, do you see what this question's asking? What is the percentage? So you remember our 3 P's. What is the percentage? What is the proportion of observations? The proportion of data? What is the probability? Okay, so if it's one of the 3 P's, then use norm CDF. All of those are like what we already did, and we're going to use norm CDF. So then that tells me I'm going to find this shaded area at a Z-score of 1.8 up to, it says, what does it say? What percentage is above that level? So I want this shaded area up here. So therefore I'm going to norm CDF from 1.8 to 99. Okay. Now let's talk the probability notation, because we're still going to write that out. Whenever it's one of the 3 P's that we norm CDF'd, that's when we write our probability notation. See, those go hand in hand. So our probability that our Z-score is greater than 1.8 came out to be, when I put it in my calculator, 0.0359, which is 3.59%. Okay, next, what is the toxicity level of the mobile homes? Okay, so, at the highest 10% of toxicity. So I'm saying to myself, they're giving me the highest 10%. So this is 10% up here. Percent. What do I know about percent? Miss McClellan just told me today that percent is not the Z. It's not the Z. You use percent to get the Z. Okay, so it's not the Z-score, but if I see a percent, then I'm thinking, I know what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to get my Z-score. Okay, so first let me go with what I know. I know the mean is still 36.92, standard deviation of 11.32, and I see a percent. So I'm going to use that percent to get the Z. Use area below as the percent. You have to use this 90% below. and I have to go inverse norm of the area below is the z at that spot. And so that z-score is 51.41. Okay, so unknown x, then that's my new algebra skills that I'm going to be solving for. So let's do this. Let's set it up. So z, oh wait, hold on a second. Something's weird. I put that, hold on, just a second. Wrong z-score. How that does a z-score of 51.41 does not make sense whatsoever. That's a z-score of 1.28. I knew that. 1.28. Okay, so that makes more sense. 1.28 equals my x minus the 36.92 is the mean over the 1132 is the standard deviation. Okay. So now I'm going to do in a different color our algebra. Okay, remember, multiply by the denominator on both sides. Multiply by the denominator on both sides. Okay, so these two 1132s cancel out on the right side of the equal sign. And so then 11.32 times 1.28, I put in my calculator and I multiplied them, and that's 14.49. And then I leave on the right hand side x minus 36.92. Okay, so then I have one more step to do. I'm going to go ahead and now add that 36.92 to both sides. And once I add those, my answer is 51.41. That's how I gotten that. And these are the parts per billion. Okay? And again, label it X. We're keeping straight what everything is. See, we either did our probability notation, or we say this is what X equals, or we identify it as a z-score. We are keeping all those things straight. Okay. Ooh, look at this one. What amount of nitrous dioxide does the middle 40% of toxic mobile homes have? Okay, so I gotta draw myself the middle 40%. And I'm already thinking to myself, look at what I have here. 2 lines. So that means I'm gonna have 2 unknown x values. Okay, so I'm going to end up with 2 answers. And there's that middle 40%. Okay. All right, well, let's put what we know. We know the mean is 36.92. The standard deviation is 11.32. Okay, so I see percentages. Okay, that's kind of my key. That's my key to go, hey, percents. Okay, percents. Percents are not the z. They're not the z, but I can use the percents to get the z-score. Okay, so I can do that. All right, so that's how I'm going to do it. And, of course, I need to know this area below. So let's think about it. If 40% is in the middle, what remains? What remains? That's 60% remains. Okay, so that means I have 30% over here on the left and 30% over here on the right. Okay, so then I know percent is not the z. It's not the z. You use percent to get the z. Use area below as the percent. Percent is not the z. So I'm going to do inverse norm of the area below of 0.30. And so when I do inverse norm of the area below 0.30, I go put that in my calculator. It gives me negative 0.52. All right, so remember I have 2 of them. So I have 2 z-scores, the left side of negative 0.52 and the right side of positive 0.52. Okay, and so you know what I'm going to have to do? Solve 2 separate equations and get 2 separate x's. I don't know if I'm going to have enough room for all of this. So let's see. Maybe I can add a blank page. I'm going to have to do that. So let's see if we can't add a blank page in here. Yay! Okay, so let's do it. So let's do the one with the negative z-score. So negative 0.52 equals, okay? So x minus the mean over the standard deviation. Now, I saw some people putting this standard deviation like under the whole thing. Now, the standard deviation is over here on just the right-hand side. It's over here on just this right-hand side. Okay. All right, then. So the next step, get rid of that 11.32. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 11.32. So that cancels. I'm going to multiply this side by 11.32. And so 11.32 times negative 0.52 is negative 5.89. And so that equals x minus the mean. All right, next step, get rid of this minus 36.92 by adding it. And so there they are. There it is at 31.03. So the bottom part of the middle, 40%, has that. Okay, remember we do twice. That's the lower bound. Now let's do the same thing with the upper z-score. Do you remember that upper z-score? That upper z-score was positive. Okay, let's see. I don't know where that went. There it is. That upper z-score is the positive 0.52. So let's do that. Here we go. The positive 0.52 equals their x minus the mean over the standard deviation. X minus the mean over the standard deviation. And now I'm going to do my algebra. My good old friend, you wondered, when am I ever going to use this? Well, you're going to use it if you are an environmentalist and you need to know, okay, what is the middle 40%? We know they're safe. So what's that middle 40% of toxicity levels? And you know how to do statistics, then you get to use your algebra to finish out your statistics. Okay? So that's when you're going to use this. Oh, this right here, 11.32 times 0.52 is 5.89. Oh, see how it's the positive version of what was over here on the left? That was the negative version. That makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to add them up. 42.81 is what x is. All right, so I have those two sets of parts per billion. So the question was, what is the middle? So 31.03. So that tells me that one of the x's, the lower part is 31.03 parts per billion, and the upper part is 42.81 parts per billion. So those are the bounds of that safe middle 40%. Okay. All right. Now, actually, these ones kind of are back to the easy way of doing things. I mean, just kind of take a step back and just recall what we had already done. So, for one, notice I skipped number 10 and went straight to number 11. So, there you go. There's number 11 and not number 10. And again, if it's the highest 20%, then we need to do inverse norm of the area below is the z at that spot. So the z-score is that inverse norm of that lower 80%, and that z-score is 0.84. Identify what it is. Put z equals 0.84. All right. Now, how about this highest 75%? Okay, that's why I have this picture here for you, so you can kind of draw what's going on. Highest 75%. So that means this is the highest 75%. So remember, we have to do inverse norm of the area below is the z at that spot. So inverse norm of the 0.25 is negative 0.67. Do you see z equals? And I just stress this over and over again because we have to always keep straight what it is that we have figured out so that we know what to do with it with the next step, because there's always a next step. If you just willy-nilly go through all these things, these values, and you don't really know, you just found a number and you don't know what that number means, then what's the point? I mean, really, what is the point? So it gives us here on this one the lowest 3%. So there's our inverse norm of that straight up 0.03. So that z-score is negative 1.88. 1.88 standard deviations below the mean. All right, and then we have this middle 90%. This is actually a very common interval. So if I have 90% in the middle, then I know I have got 10% left out in the edges total. So what's that going to make per little edge? 5% in the left side and 5% in the right. Now, do you remember that I always just do the lower one? So that z equals inverse norm of the bottom 5%, which is 0.05. And so that z is negative 1.64. Okay, and I'm not even going to do the math because I know the other one is its positive twin. So there are two z-scores that we have bounded by in the middle. Okay, there is the end of your numbers 9 through 11, and so that was really just a review of yesterday's. It's the next video that is going to kind of add an additional algebraic layer, just another components to solve. So if you struggle with algebra, then the next video is especially something that you're going to want to go and take slowly. All right, so good luck to you.